Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine standing right at the edge, looking into a new land, a new beginning. You've got these decades of, well, wilderness journey behind you, and your leader, this incredibly experienced figure, is delivering a final, powerful address. That's the scene we're stepping into today. We're diving deep into the biblical book of Deuteronomy. It's really foundational, a restatement of laws, a look back, but also very much look forward.
Yeah, and our source material here is, well, it's rich excerpts from Deuteronomy itself. We're looking mainly at chapters 7 through 34, plus some key opening verses. What you find is this mix of history, legal stuff, and some, frankly, intense prophetic warnings.
Right. So our mission for you today is to really pull out the most potent bits of wisdom, the key insights from this ancient text. We want to explore its structure, which is actually quite clear how it's delivered, and find those, aha moments. The goal is to leave you feeling well-informed, but not, like, buried in detail. Think of it as a shortcut to the heart of Deuteronomy. So we kick off in the 40th year of their journey. It's the 11th month. Moses is standing before all of Israel over near the Jordan River in Moab. He's 120 years old at this point, and he states, he won't be the one crossing the Jordan with them.
And what's really key here, I think, is that this isn't just Moses reading off a list of rules. The text says he's undertaking to explain this law. He's trying to make it resonate, reminding them of the whole journey, their history, and this unique, profound relationship they have with Jehovah, their God.
Yeah, the text goes back over those 40 years wandering in the wilderness. It mentions how, despite all their, well, rebellions, Jehovah protected them, provided for them. You know, the famous lines about their clothes not wearing out, their sandals lasting, being fed with manna.
Right, and that raises the question, why repeat all this? Why go over it again? Well, it seems to hammer home a key teaching. Man does not live by bread alone, but by every expression from Jehovah's mouth. It's about remembering that sustenance, that life, is more than just the physical stuff. It's about purpose, maybe connection to the divine, something deeper.
But it definitely wasn't a smooth ride, was it? And this is where it gets really interesting. Moses doesn't gloss over the bad stuff. He reminds them point blank how they provoked Jehovah, your God, in the wilderness. He brings up Horeb, the golden calf incident, even how they grumbled that God hated them or how they panicked at Kadesh Barnea.
Exactly. And if you look at the bigger picture, these stories really highlight, well, the people's stubbornness, frankly. The text uses that word.
Yeah.
But alongside that, you see God's incredible patience and faithfulness despite being provoked again and again. It even mentions how Jehovah listened to Moses when he pleaded for Aaron and for the people after some major screw-ups.
And the core of the book really is this restatement of the law. You've got the Ten Commandments again, spoken face-to-face from the fire at Horeb. And crucially, Moses says this covenant, this agreement, isn't just something their ancestors experienced. It's for all of us alive here today.
That's a vital point. It underscores this unique covenant relationship. Jehovah is described as a God who requires exclusive devotion. That's a huge demand, especially back then. No other gods allowed. And bound up with that is the call to love Jehovah, your God, with all your heart and all your soul and all your strength. That's presented as absolutely central to who they are.
So, thinking about that relationship, why them? Why were they given this land described as belonging to nations greater and mightier than they were? Was it because Israel was just better?
No, the text is really explicit about that. It says, it was not because you were the most numerous, for you were the smallest of all the peoples. And hammers home, not because of your own righteousness.
That's great, yeah.
Instead, it points to two main reasons: Jehovah's love and his promise, his oath to their ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And significantly, because of the wickedness of these nations that were already living there.
Okay, so moving from those big principles into how they were supposed to live. As they prepared to enter this new land, there's this really strong command. Completely destroy all the places where the nations have served their gods.
That sounds pretty intense. Why such a strong instruction? It does sound intense, and it raises questions for sure. But from the text perspective, it seems to be about maintaining purity of worship, about establishing their distinct identity. They were told to wipe out the very names of these other gods. Worship had to be centralized, focused on the place Jehovah your God chooses. That's where offerings, festivals, everything was meant to happen. It was a way to prevent religious blending or corruption to keep that exclusive devotion intact.
And the law wasn't just about religious rituals, right? It seems like a blueprint for, well, a whole society. Commands about appointing judges, officers, and a very clear no to taking bribes or showing partiality in judgment. If a case was too tough, there was a system to escalate it.
Absolutely. It really emphasizes justice. That phrase, justice, justice you should pursue, is powerful. Even looking ahead to a potential king, there were limits. Not too many horses, not too many wives, specifically so that his heart may not go astray. Not hoarding gold and silver. And get this, the king was supposed to write his own copy of the law and read it every day. The idea was to keep him humble, stop him from thinking he was above his own people. Remarkable stuff for the ancient world.
That is remarkable. And what about the everyday person, especially those who might struggle? You mentioned the rules for the poor.
Yes, and this is another area where the detail is fascinating. The command is to generously open your hand to your afflicted and poor brother.
Hmm.
There's this recognition, quite realistic, that there will always be poor people in the land.
Mm.
And then you have these specific provisions. Every 7th year, a release of debts. Hebrew slaves were to be freed then too, generously provided for when they left. Though, interestingly, a slave could choose to stay permanently, marked by an awl through the year. It shows a real focus on social responsibility.
And that extended to others too, didn't it? Specific care mentioned for foreign residents, orphans, widows groups, often vulnerable back then.
Definitely. They were repeatedly told to treat these groups with fairness and compassion.
Okay, so beyond the big societal structures, Deuteronomy gets into some really specific details of daily life. The dietary laws, for instance, clean and unclean animals, and that prohibition on eating blood keeps coming up.
It does. And these aren't presented as just random rules. They often connect back to deeper principles. The blood prohibition, for example, is linked to the idea that the blood is the life. So respecting life. Then you have really practical things. Build a parapet, a low wall around your roof for safety. Basically an early building code. Don't muzzle an ox when it's threshing grain, let it eat while it works. Use honest weights and measures in business. It paints a picture of a society aiming for fairness and order, even in small things.
Yeah, some fascinating details, and also some culturally specific ones, like not wearing clothes associated with the opposite sex, or that rule about not boiling a young goat in its mother's milk. Those seem to point to maybe deeper cultural boundaries or values.
They likely do. They contribute to defining what made this community distinct.
What about the negative side, the things they were warned against doing? The text uses strong language, like detestable practices.
Yes, it's very strong. There's a clear rejection of practices associated with the surrounding cultures, particularly those involving divination or seeking knowledge through supernatural means outside of Jehovah. Things like making his son or his daughter pass through the fire, likely a reference to child sacrifice, divination, magic, trying to read omens, sorcery, consulting mediums, trying to contact the dead, all strictly forbidden. These were seen as fundamentally corrupting. The call was to be blameless before Jehovah your God.
And the consequences for turning away from Jehovah, for apostasy, or trying to lead others into idolatry, they were incredibly severe, even if it was your own brother or son or daughter or closest friend doing the enticing.
Exactly. It shows how seriously they took the preservation of this covenant, this unique relationship. The integrity of the community's worship was paramount. And tied into that, there were clear guidelines on how to identify a false prophet, someone claiming to speak for God, but wasn't. It was about protecting the community from being led astray.
Which brings us to the climax of the book, really. This incredibly dramatic choice that Moses lays out. See, I am putting before you today a blessing and a curse. And these weren't just abstract ideas. They were to be physically pronounced on 2 mountains, Gerizim and Ebal, making it very real.
Very real, very tangible. And the blessings for obedience, if they diligently obey, are extensive. Prosperity in the city, in the fields, lots of children, healthy livestock, full barns, rain at the right time, economic strength lending to others, not borrowing, being the head and not the tail. It's a picture of complete flourishing.
But then, the curses for disobedience. They are described in even more detail, and they are genuinely terrifying. It's a stark warning.
It really is. The text describes this downward spiral. Horrible diseases, the boils of Egypt, but also mental anguish, madness, blindness, confusion. Economic ruin follows locusts eating crops, fruit being consumed by others, defeat in battle being scattered among foreign nations. And then, the most shocking, chilling detail, a prophecy that things would get so bad during a siege that they would resort to eating their own children out of sheer desperation.
Wow. That is incredibly graphic. It highlights the absolute extremity of the consequences they believed would follow turning away from their covenant.
It's meant to be a powerful deterrent, no doubt. But importantly, even amidst these terrible warnings, there's a thread of hope. The text promises that even if they are scattered to the ends of the earth, if they genuinely return to Jehovah your God and listen to his voice, Then God will bring back your captives and show you mercy and regather you. There's always a path back, a possibility of restoration.
And Moses' final actions before he dies are also really significant, setting things up for the future. He writes down this entire law in a book and has it placed right beside the Ark of the Covenant as a constant witness, a reminder. He also teaches them a powerful song, which also serves as a witness, recounting their history and God's dealings with them.
Exactly. And critically, he formally commissions Joshua. He lays his hands on him, publicly confirming that Joshua is the one chosen to lead the people into the promised land. This ensures a smooth, divinely sanctioned transition of leadership, which was absolutely crucial for the nation at that pivotal moment.
So bringing this all together for you, our listener, what's the takeaway? Deuteronomy is clearly much more than just an ancient rule book. It's this profound story about relationship, about choices having real, serious consequences. It hammers home the importance of remembering the past, the need for obedience, and how collective actions shape a society's destiny.
Yeah, and you've seen how it emphasizes things like clear justice, real compassion for the vulnerable, the dangers of idolatry, which, we could think of today as anything that takes the ultimate place in our lives. And this direct link between how people act and what happens to them individually and as a group. These themes, presented so directly, they really challenge us, I think, to consider the foundations of a good society and our own personal integrity, whatever our own beliefs might be.
So here's a final thought to leave you with. Given those incredibly vivid blessings promised for faithfulness and the terrifying curses laid out for disobedience and that constant call to both love and fear God, how much of this ancient wisdom about what makes a society thrive, things like justice, responsibility, shared values, how much of that still resonates? How much is universally applicable today, even completely outside of its original religious context? We hope this deep dive has given you some fresh perspectives, maybe sparked some new questions. Until next time, keep digging, keep questioning, and keep learning.